Om Swastiastu. Good evening, everyone. How's it doing? I feel well today and tomorrow also. In this case, I'm going to share my deep insights and my deep analysis about The Last of Us Part 2. Without any further ado, let's do Ikozomina. Before we move on to the section 1, I'm going to introduce those of character were added here. Okay, first one is Ellie. In the original The Last of Us Part 1 in PlayStation 3, Ellie was a computer-controlled sidekick whose job was to aid you in combat while you did your part to protect her. In the last part of 2, we know that Ellie will be primary playable character. She is grow up a few years, so she won't be mostly helpless kid that we saw before. We can tell by the announcement trailer that she is learn how to fight and how to kill. She got some blood on her, but there is no evidence that any of it is hers. How else will Ellie change over the course of the game? How much control will the player have over that change? Next on the Joel. Joel will be back in The Last of Part 2, but he won't be character the player controls. It will be interesting to see how it's used. As far as we can tell, he is still perfectly capable of fighting. He is carrying a gun in the state of play yesterday, so it won't necessarily make sense for him to simply play sidekick. Will Joe be accompanying Ellie throughout the game at all? It is possible that he won't be, but his absence will create only one question. We are guessing we won't get a lot in the way of details on this until much later, possibly until we get to see actual gameplay that could be a couple of minutes from now. Perhaps Ellie will get a new companion, or perhaps the plan is for the gameplay to change in some significant way. It is possible Joel's role in The Last of Part 2 will be attempted to dissuade Ellie from following the path of vengeance she has apparently chosen. Next is the new characters has been confirmed here. Those characters came by way of all the new state of play trailer for the game. This near 23 minutes state of play has been introduced to a series of violent events and a handful of characters along with a new faction in the Last of Part 2. The first major character introduced is Emily, who is a part of a religious cult attempting to wipe out the sins from the world by exploiting from the physical bodies of the people. Emily is portrayed as an antagonist in the several minutes of cinematic teaser trailer. We also see Yara and Lev, a young brother and sister who were part of the cult but end up turning against them. Yara ends up getting her arms scattered into pieces while Liv comes to her rescue with the bow. A muscular woman who is struck up on the nose remains unnamed for now, but we do know that she is being voiced by veteran voice actor Laura Bailey. Okay, many fans have been speculation that the unnamed woman is Ellie's mother and that the group led by Emily are attempting to kill for being pregnant, assumed with Ellie. Okay, we move to section 1. I'm feeling The Last of Us Part 2 as my insight. Wisely words. Immersively storytelling and gameplay make a return in The Last of Us Part 2. For the pros is stunning visual. Second is fine-tuned gameplay mechanics. Third its characters are fully developed and believable. 4. New characters are challenging and smart. 5. Ellie's new tool and skill sets introduce more dynamic combat. Sorry, not sec, but sets. Okay. For the codes here will be added too. First is AI can be too smart for its own good, and the last is killing dogs feel pretty bad. Okay, it has been 6 years since The Last of Us first release for the PlayStation 3, as I mentioned before, and many of us have been eagerly waiting to see what has become of the little girl who also saved the world from itself, with the only gameplay reveal from E3 2018 to sustain us. Developer Naughty Dog has finally offered a sneak peek into The Last of Us Part 2 has to over. Ellie, now 90 years old, has established a somehow normal life in a snowy cliff injection. Wyoming, in the demo, we find Ellie and her friend Dinah patrolling the outskirts of the town, riding horseback through snow-covered trails in search of marauders and infected. Their job is to eliminate any small threats that come across the alert the order of any encroaching danger, continuing its strength of superb storytelling, satisfying gameplay mechanics, and seemingly alive environments. What we have played of The Last of Us Part 2 feels like part of continuity worth waiting all these years for. The Last of Us Part 2. What we know so far, there has been a lot of speculation surrounding the sequel to the PlayStation part. The Last of Us, while Naughty Dog, voice actor Nolan North, and creator Neil Druckmann have all had their own slip-outs whether or not The Last of Us Part 2 was actually in development. It was never entirely clear if a game was coming or what sort of priority it was. While there have been some unconfirmed chatter about the supposed sequel, Naughty Dog has finally released a trailer that gives us the first clear idea of what we're going to get. There is still more that we don't know, however. So here's a rundown of the what we know and what we know about The Last of Us Part 2. Sorry for the beauty of back sound. Okay, next. What we have seen from The Last of Us Part 2, while many questions remaining unanswered, there is one place that we can get real information about what The Last of Us Part 2 is about. Okay. As director, Neil Druckmann did reveal that while the game will be a lot darker than the first one in terms of its tone of focusing on hate, okay, ball is the focusing on hate, that there would be juxtaposed moments that are hopeful and uplifting as well, which was revealed during a panel at the 2017 PSX event. Okay, what The Last of Us will be about. The Last of Us Part 2, as we know it to be called, is confirmed to follow the story of Joel and Ellie. It's approximately 5 years after the original game and around 25 years after the original outbreak that was despite in the original Last of Us. Ellie has grown into a young woman. We don't see much in the way of the plot significant in the trailer, just that people and Ellie play a more full song on the guitar. Also, Ellie is get mad. Neil Druckmann, who will be reprising his role as lead writer and director of The Last of Us Part 2, has confirmed that Head will play a key role in this new game. It is a fitting shit considering that love, the feeling that Joe eventually grow to feel for Ellie. Is the major theme of the first game. Is clear that a great deal has happened off screen since the first game ended. Exactly what has made Ellie so angry is not clear, but she apparently wants a people dead, and based on the body count we see in the trailer of State of Play yesterday, she is capable of making it all happen. It wasn't always a guarantee that the new game would directly follow up on the story of Joel and Ellie. Last year, Neil Druckmann, creative director for The Last of Us 1, said in the interview with PlayStation magazine that they have considered many different directions when talking about creating the story of The Last of Us 2. The answer is, and this is totally honest, and I have said this in the past, that when Bruce and I moved over to Uncharted 4, we were brainstorming ideas for The Last of Us Part 2 with the new characters, ideas for The Last of Us Part 2 with Joel and Ellie, ideas for a science fiction games, ideas for a fantasy game, and building prototypes for each one of those ideas. And just as we're getting close to settle or narrowing that list down, we were asked to work on Uncharted 4, said Neil Druckmann. Okay, it seemed that the decision was made to keep things more or less the same with the Last of Part 2. We see Joel carrying a standard revolver as the pistol in the synonym of the revolver. Not any soft or science fiction weapon. There are supernatural elements obvious. It is not even entirely clear that the people we see dead are infected. The one significant change that we know has been made in this time, Ellie will be primary playable character, not Joel. It is important to note that Neil Druckmann did say he was brainstorming ideas for The Last of Us Part 2, the new characters. It seemed like at this time of the brainstorming season, everything was kind of the air and not really going in any certain direction. We can trust that a sequel is coming, but what's its store for the story is almost too much to enter. Naughty Dog is a developer famous for their in-depth and highly consuming storylines, all present in the games like Uncharted and The Last of Us. So, really, the story is what's going to make or break its game. But with Naughty Dog's story with storytelling, it's almost like no one has to worry. Naughty Dog will know just what everyone wants when it comes to the story. For the gameplay about The Last of Us Part 2, what we know so far, there has been a lot of speculation surrounding the sequel to the PlayStation 4. Okay. While we move to section 2 about the natural born survivor, place, and etc. Where the last of Us Part 2 take place, Naughty Dog teased the gamers with some concept art, and even though the developer never said where the sequence would take place, gamers began combine over the concept art looking for a minor clues. In fact, gamers started breaking down and decomposing the pixel in the concept art to look at the street sign in one of the image, which did reveal a street crossing. Gamers then matched up this up with real-life street crossing in the America, and they began matching up the concept imaginary with location in real life that might have those landmarks at those locations. In turn out, the concept imaginary was based on the location in Seattle, Washington. At the PXX event, Neil Druckmann did indeed confirm that the sequel would take place throughout the Seattle area. The crunch of the snow beneath the hoof of the horse made for ambient background noise, setting the tone as Ellie and Dinah talk among each other as they ride. They speak of romantic troubles and plan for later in the day, and it feels like a moment shared between the two close friends, raw and scenery. It is clear from the interaction between Ellie and Diana that The Last of Us Part 2 plans to continue its themes of strong, capable women. The Last of Us nailed this with Tess and Marley allowing each other to feel like their own unique person and not defaulting to a cookie culture, or synonym is badass woman archetype. They are equal parts vulnerable and take no shit that doesn't feel forced or unnatural, and it feels so good to see it again. Ellie and Diana eventually stumble across a corpse of the dead mouse in front of the abandoned supermarket. Its carcass has been mercilessly ripped apart, suggesting it is the work of infected. The two friends dismount their horses to find the threat and take it down, exploring dark and unsettling buildings as anxiety inducing as it never was. Just like The Last of Us, listen mode can be used to pinpoint to location of enemies. Areas like a supermarket will have you inspecting rooms and finding ways to travel through broken down buildings, all while being as healthy as possible as to not alert enemies. When Ellie and Diana finally found the affected hiding the supermarket, stealth was the only way I was able to take down inside. There were three affected and two clickers, each other shuffling unpredictable around the fallen shelving and long forgotten birds scattered across the floor. Killing as killing unaffected using brute force only alert the clickers and only affected to my presence. With the limited selection of place of hidden, inching around the elves doing my best to not notice felt like the only option. Try my hardest to be as stealth as possible. I found myself still being discovered by the infected. I would take one down, only to be caught by another a few moments later, because I took long to crawl back out of harm's way. Eventually, I was able to take them all, but it took quite a bit of passion and determination to get there. Luckily, Ellie's still kill speed and prone movement speed are upgradable abilities, so isn't she is doomed to be an elegant assassin forever. As processed in Made The Last of Us Part 2, you will pick up and upgrade the new weapons, items, and abilities that are incredibly useful in situations where Ellie is outnumbered by enemies. Almost too real. After clearing out of supermarket, Ellie and Diana hop back on their horses and begin heading to their next destination. A brutal snowstorm starts to close in on them. They are forced to retreat to an abandoned bookstore until it passes. The bookstore, like many places in the last part of two, is home to a variety of items that are found through exploration. They are parts you can use to upgrade your weapons and build battles that unlock new ability. There are also letters that offer context about character and situation that help shape the story. I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but the two end up sharing an immediate moment here. The facial animation, in particular, are the marvel to see. The curious spark in Diana's eyes as she gauged Ellie's response to her question was only made all the more exciting when Ellie's defense outfall as her studied Diana's face. This subtle yet very real reaction heightened the intensity of the moment between of two. I could feel the connection and it made me more invested in their relationship because it felt genuine. This realism carries over into other aspects of gameplay. I was taken further into the story, following an event that sends Ellie down a path of revenge, contrasting against the snow-filled mountains of Wyoming. We are taken to Washington where nature has reclaimed what remains of suburbia. Tall grass pokes through the broken tile and cement. Vines, fern, and ivy grow along the side of the buildings. Broken windows and cracks decorate the walls. Bird chirp, freaking of the ear, silent of the abandoned neighborhood. The last environment of the last part us to invite you to explore. If every every smashed window, unlocked door, or hole in the wall is an opportunity to discover a new items or some more crafting materials. With environment that feel alive, poking in every nook and clearly doesn't feel as dangerous as the something does in the similar game. But Washington, just like Wyoming, it filled with danger. A new enemy enters the scene, the Washington Liberation Front. Aka the Wolf. From what I've gathered, they are rebellion try to impose their will on the remaining survivor. Similar to the Fireflies in The Last of Us, their true motives are unknown, but they are incredibly smart enemy type that I found myself struggling to hold my own against. Right before that demo ended, I found myself in the neighborhood crowing with wolf mercenaries. They were on high alert, already aware Ellie was hiding somewhere nearby.
And has been able to forge
Avoiding
lasting
bears
relationships
is
within the
easy.
community.
Use
Scale of 1 to
enough
10.
listen mood, but
How
they
would
have
you
an ally that
rate
makes
our
staying
kiss
hidden
from
more
last
of
night?
challenge. Attack dogs. Yes. Attack dogs.
However,
this
this
trait
piece is
Germany's
short-lived.
sweetheart
Jackson and Ellie
What?
suffer a violent
pick
and
up on
traumatizing
Ellie's
event.
sin and track her down with ease.
Ellie sets off
and
back
they
into the
would
treacherous
hesitate
outside
to kill
world
you on
in search of
command.
retribution
Use listen mode.
and
You can
justice.
see the sin trail Ellie
Her
leaves
journey will take her to
behind
new
with
parts of the
help
country
of the
previously
drawable
unexplored in The Last
such
of
as
Us.
the bricks and the bottles.
The story spans
You can
multiple
distract
seasons and
the
climates,
dogs and the
from the
mercenary
snow-capped mountains of
buying
Jackson
you a few
to the lush
precious
Pacific
seconds
Northwest.
of time to slip out of
Each
harm's
introduces
way.
a wide range
But
of
still,
exterior and
we'll
interior
only
environments
get you
for you
so
to
far
navigate
in
and
the
explore,
last part.
rendered in meticulous detail and unprecedented scale with the latest iteration of the Naughty Dog
What I
engine.
have experienced the last of
Our
Us
goal
Part
was to
2
make these
feels
environments not
like
only
a work
beautiful,
of
but
passion.
feel as grounded and
Every
authentic
detail
to the
will
cities they're
form
based on
of the
as possible.
will, the almost care. From the simply
Much of the
real
story
character
unfolds in
and
what remains of
environment
Seattle,
to the
a massive
incredibly
former
smart
quarantine zone.
amenities and fine
Its
tuning
locales are
gameplay.
incredibly
The
diverse,
Last of Us
spanning a
Part 2
dense
feels
city center
worth
with a
the
skyline of
6-year
towering
wait
high-rises
and
to the beautiful
years more
suburbs
when it
and
finally
stormy
arrived
waterfronts that
in
surround it.
June
The city exhibits
of
drastic shifts in architecture, elevation, and weather. And with Part 2, we've introduced new traversal mechanics that
And
afford
last
greater
section is
exploration
section
and
3.
ways to navigate
My
threats.
liar theory has
Ellie is not only able to climb and jump over gaps, but she can use ropes to scale vertical terrain or swing over obstacles,
my theory,
allowing you to discover new
coming
areas,
off the
resources,
trailer reveal.
and side narratives.
Many of the fans and I
These more open environments also create new
are
strategic
trying to
considerations in
figure out
combat,
some of the deeper questions
whether it's
that
to get the
The
jump
Last
on
of Us
enemies
Part 2
or
will
bypass
be
them
revealed.
entirely.
There is one theory that seems to have very widely
The Last of Us Part 2
been
features some of the
framed
largest environments
onto
we've
by
ever
many
created.
different fans.
Horseback riding will allow
Because
Ellie to quickly
Joel
cover some of
is
these
one
expansive
bravely
terrains.
and never clearly
Some streets are so
seen
flooded
at
that a
the
boat
end
is
of the
required to
trailer.
navigate them.
There is a belief that the people
However,
Ellie
the
may
world of The Last of Us is as lush and
most
inviting
interested
as it is deadly.
in killing are responsible for
As Ellie
Joel's
uncovers the
death.
path to finding
Perhaps
those who have wronged her, she must face the many threats of this
hallucination that
unknown
only
city.
she can see.
In the wake of the
entirely
pandemic and the
crazy
fall of the
idea.
quarantine zone,
Based
Seattle has
on the
become a
event
war zone,
at the end
where
of the
two warring
original
factions find themselves in
There
an
are
ongoing
certainly
conflict for
people
territory
who are not
and
happy
resources.
with Joel, who many have
One of
killed
these groups
in
is the Washington
period
Liberation
between
Front,
games
otherwise
in
known
attempt
as
to get
the
to the area.
WLF.
For her part,
The WLF
Ellie
are a
would
militia group that
certainly
began
not take
as
an
resistance to
event
the
like
military
the
occupation of
well.
Seattle,
First,
and eventually
she would
wrestled control of the
want to
city
kill
from them.
everybody responsible.
They are highly
Which
trained,
we know
organized,
she is ready
and
to
well
do.
equipped with
And
weapons they
second,
stole from the
she
army.
may
They
have
occupy much of the city,
difficulty coming to
imprisoning or
terms
killing
with the
trespassers
reality of
on
the
sight.
situation.
Hey, we got another
There's no
trespasser.
lot
Did
to
you see
go
her?
on, but it's an interesting angle to take as we learn
On the other side of this
War.
bloody conflict is a group of
To
religious zealots called the
analyze
Seraphites,
every
or Scars,
moment of
defined by the
this
self-inflicted deep cuts that they bear across their
game.
faces.
Okay, that's all about my
Like the
deep analysis
WLF, they're
of
deeply
this
tribalistic
game. I
and
hope
territorial.
you
They're known for being
enjoyable
stealthy, using overgrowth
to
as cover,
listening
and they
what
use
I'm
more
saying
silent
today.
weapons like bows and
See you on the
arrows.
next video.
Clip her
Sorry
wings.
to my bubbly section will show off here. Sorry. And
But beyond this
is
conflict among
perfectly
survivors,
okay.
the threat that originally
See you on
brought
the
the
next
world to
video.
its knees is very much
Vista,
present.
baby.
Every human is in danger of falling victim to the infected.
Okay, a beauty. Next time.
They are the recently infected runners who are more numerous and aggressive in this game.
Thank you.
The blind but extremely deadly clickers,
See you.
and the stalkers who sneak and hide until they're ready to attack, surprising their victims.